Right, I think we'll make a start. Good evening, everybody. Thank you to everyone for attending this meeting for the Overview and Scrutiny Committee on Thursday, the 14th of March 2024. My name is Councillor Roy Lees and I am the Vice Chair of the committee. Unfortunately, Councillor Riggott is unable to attend this meeting. Please note this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. Members of in the chamber, when you want to speak, please raise your hand to indicate to me that you wish to speak. When I invite you to speak, please turn your microphone on. Please turn your microphone off when you are finished speaking. Please can everyone ensure their phones are turned to silent. We are not expecting a fire drill, so if the alarm sounds, please exit the way you came in. Apologies.
Thank you, Chair. No apologies received.
Thank you. Declaration of any interest. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any pecuniary interest in respect of matters contained in this agenda. If you have a pecuniary interest, you must withdraw from the meeting. Normally, you should leave the room before the business starts to be discussed. You do, however, have the same right to speak as a member of the public and may remain in the room to enable you to exercise that right and then leave immediately. In either case, you must not seek to improperly influence a decision on the matter. Minutes of the last meeting held on the Thursday, the 25th of January 2024, 24 pages 3 to 8. Are there any issues raised on the accuracy of these minutes? Recommendation that these minutes of the meeting may be approved. All in favour? Thank you. Public questions. There are no public questions this evening. Scrutiny of the exec cabinet minutes, pages 9 to 14, and agenda supplement, pages 3 to 6. To consider the executive cabinet minutes from the meetings held on the 18th, I invite members to make any comments. No comments? Can we note the executive cabinet minutes? That the minutes be noted. All in favour? Notice of executive decisions, pages 15 to 48. A link to the notice of decision has been included on the agenda at item 5. I now invite members to make any comments on the notice of executive decisions. Any comments? No? To see that the notice of the executive decision is noted. Item 6, health scrutiny update. Unfortunately, Margaret France has informed me that there have been no LCC health and adult care scrutiny meetings to report back and on since the last meeting of this committee. Therefore, we'll go on to item 7, the water safety Doing It for Dylan campaign. On behalf of the committee, I welcome Becky Ramsey from the Doing It for Dylan campaign, who has been invited to speak to the committee about water safety. Prior to this presentation, I would like to advise the committee and anyone watching this meeting on YouTube that the presentation does include distressing content in the form of a short dramatisation depicting drowning to highlight the dangers of swimming in open water. The film will last about 5 minutes. Becky Ramsey will announce when the film is about to be played, and so anyone who would prefer not to view it will have the opportunity to leave the meeting or exit YouTube. I will now invite Becky to begin their presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank everyone for allowing me the opportunity to be here and share my story and my passion behind Doing It for Dylan. This is Dylan. Dylan was born on the 17th of October 1997 and sadly passed away on the 3rd of July 2011. Dylan was basically with two friends swimming in a disused body of open water, a disused quarry. It's my real passion to get out there and try and reduce water-related fatalities. And unfortunately, drownings have been happening since time began. So the problem isn't a national one, it isn't an area one, it's a worldwide one. And that's why the WHO, the World Health Organization, have taken this on board, and we now have an actual World Drowning Prevention Day. At this point, I am going to just reread the disclaimer, and the film is going to be played, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail. So the disclaimer is, I'm now about to play a short film, which does include a dramatisation depicting a drowning to highlight the dangers of swimming in open water, which some people may find distressing. The film will last roughly 5 minutes, and if you wish to leave the meeting or exit YouTube, please do so now and rejoin in 5 minutes. Thank you.
You alright?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
So did you enjoy that party on Friday?
Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? Sorry I had to leave early. I had work the next day, so...
Yeah, but you missed Elliot in the fireplace screaming Diagon Alley.
Did it, and you had nothing to do with it.
Well, I handed him the bottle, but I didn't know what was in it, in fairness. Actually, I thought you were going because I was doing your head in a bit.
No, not at all. Anyway, I gave you my number, didn't I?
Suppose, yeah. But it might have been a fake one, you know, for like horny granny sex chat or something. So, what did you do last night?
Went to a concert with the girls from work.
Did you, go and see Cliff Richard?
Oh, aren't you funny? No, I went to see Rochester.
Rochester, I'm impressed.
Atmosphere was fantastic. So, what did you do last night?
Oh, I just went round to my mates and watched the DVD.
Oh, what did you watch?
We saw this brilliant film called Creeper in the Woods.
I can't tell you how much I hate that film. To be honest, it knocks me pretty sick. Laura was saying you had a bad breakup with a girl from uni. What happened there then?
Well, you know there's them pizzeria places that have like a buffet lunch? Well, we were standing in line waiting to get served, and she was just in front of me. And you know how you tap someone on the back of the car and they sort of buckle? Well, I did that to her, and she just went. She just fell completely. And the whole restaurant went really quiet. And then she just got up, she just hurled abuse at me, and then she just left.
I'm not surprised. What were you thinking?
Well, my mates do it to me all the time, and it's pretty funny. Is it me or is it getting hotter?
It's pretty warm today.
You fancy a swim?
There's a sign back there saying it's dangerous to swim in that.
Look, they only put it up to cover themselves from inexperienced swimmers. Look, I can swim for the city.
Well, still don't think you should go in there.
I can swim like a fish. Hold this.
What are you doing? Don't go in there.
It's fine. It's freezing.
You don't have to do this to impress me, you know.
I'm not. I just fancy a swim.
David, you alright?
Yeah, there was a ledge or something.
Put back. Come on, stop messing around. No, put back to going home.
All right, I'm coming back.
Game over. Obviously, what you saw there wasn't a real boy drowning. That was actually filmed at the Anderton Centre, which isn't that far away from here. It was filmed by United Utilities and it was for educational purposes. Now, I use that on my hard-hitting presentations. That doesn't go into primary schools. Obviously, I couldn't be showing that to 6, 7-year-olds. So everything that I do is age appropriate. What I'm talking to you today about is the higher end. So like the colleges, the universities, the high schools, the teenagers, the young people that I actually want to reach. I'll be sharing in brief with you the presentation because I don't want to bore you, to be quite honest. And I'd like to hope that most of you are clued up on water safety, but I am going to show you the presentation that I give in high schools. I'm going to run through it pretty quickly. I take it into schools, colleges, universities, police, Prince's Trust, literally anybody that'll have me, anybody that'll listen to me, I will go and I will attend. My campaign, Doing It for Dylan, is nationwide, if not worldwide now. I've travelled from London to Newcastle, I've been on the news in Spain, and I've been talking to people in Kenya. Doing It for Dylan was mentioned at the World Drowning Prevention Conference in 2023. And in 2024, this year, we will have legislation in place because of a petition that I ran a couple of years ago to try and get water safety on the national curriculum. So I was basically asking for the dangers in and around open water to be taught on the national curriculum. In fact, what we got was cold water shock will be taught, and alongside riptides, which is a start, but it's not. We need more. I've been on the news in Spain, like I said, and I've been speaking to Kenya. I've been speaking to people in Kenya. I've been speaking to a gentleman in Kenya that wants me to speak to his parishioners. There's quite a high drowning rate in countries such as Kenya, Africa, and because that's their only means to bathe. You know, everything else. It's very different drowning problem than what we actually have. Like I said, the conference was held in Australia, so to have my name up on a board in Australia for the World Drowning Prevention Conference was pretty outstanding and pretty out of this world, and a very, very, very proud moment, one that I didn't even know was taking place. I was actually just sent a picture of it from somebody that was attending, and it was alongside people like Rosper and The Who, and I can't tell you how proud and that moment made me. I've worked a long time for this. I've worked very, very hard. I'm going to just go into the presentation, like I say, very briefly, and then I've got a few more bits that I'd like to say. So Doing It for Dylan was set up pretty much the day after Dylan died. Immediately I knew that if my son could die like this, then anybody could, because Dylan was young, fit, healthy, he was strong, he was capable, he was brainy, and he could swim. I set up Doing It for Dylan very, very immediately, like I say, and I had a very, very simple motto, which was no lifeguard, no swimming. And I generally believe that if people followed that motto, we would lose a lot less people. That's not me saying I don't want people to go swimming in open water, so I don't need open water swimmers to come back at me. That is what all I'm saying is that you need people there professionally, especially at the time of starting to introduce yourself to open water. You need to have professionals on standby, lifeguards, somebody that knows what to do if you get into trouble. So I always start off with this picture, and this is for two reasons. One, there's always young girls in the audience when I go to a high school, and they love looking at this picture. And two, it really depicts how physically fit Dylan was. He doesn't look 13 years old in this picture, but that's how old he was. This was 4 days before he died. No, sorry, it wasn't. It wasn't. The picture that I showed you at the beginning was 4 days before he died. This is a little bit before that, but not much. And it just shows his physique. He was a free runner. He did back flips, front flips. you name it. He was so physically fit. I will go into that in more detail in a little bit, because when I start talking about Dylan, it could get a little bit emotional for me. So I will apologise before I start. And I forgot that I've got control of the clicker and I'm waiting him to click it. It's not working. Yeah, there we go. So when I talk in schools about dangers in and around open water, I talk about sea, rivers, canals, weirs, reservoirs, locks, lakes, quarries. All of them have hidden dangers. Now I'm not going to go into everything, but what I do say at this point is this is an actual picture of the quarry where my son lost his life. So Dylan was, if you can see the little island right near the edge, there was also another one just off camera. Dylan was basically swimming between those two islands. He'd been in the water for 20 minutes when he got into difficulty. He'd been in the water and he'd been absolutely fine until he got into difficulty. Again, I'm going to go into that a little bit later on, because I could get emotional. The things that I do cover when I go into schools are drowning, cold water shock, sudden depth changes, undercurrents, underwater debris, slippery embankments, sudden temperature changes, cramps, rip currents and poisonous chemicals. Drowning is very simple. It's where water enters the lungs, taking the space needed for air. You can't breathe as soon as water goes into your lungs. The dangers of swimming in open water are obviously drowning, sudden depth changes, hypothermia, you could have a seizure, cold water shock, pollutants, there could be chemicals present, you could have underwater temperature changes, cramps, undercurrents, slippery embankments and underwater debris such as scrap metal, cars, literally anything could have been dumped in open water. Cold water shock is the biggest killer where open water is concerned, and we really don't have much control over it. So if we've ever had a shower or jumped in a bath and it's been too cold, it takes your breath away. You get a bit startled. Cold water shock is very much like that, but on a much bigger scale. So imagine falling into the water or getting into the water purposely, and that massive shock comes over your whole body. As you take that involuntary gasp reflex, you could potentially swallow water. That's when the problems start. So you swallow water, you could then start to be frightened, you start to panic, gasp for breath, you could lose consciousness, you could get cramp, you could have heart problems, you could become dizzy, and you could hyperventilate. But ultimately, the cold water shock, you don't really have any control over. If you was to fall into open water, and I will go into statistics in a little while, but if you was to be one of the ones that was to fall into open water, the greatest advice that I could give you to try and save yourself is to get on your back and float like a starfish. It's a very, very simple thing to do, but it could potentially save your life. Can often be different levels. For example, I could be knee deep in water, I could take a step to the left and I could be ankle deep, I could take a step to the right and I could be neck deep or worse. It's that simple. Open water is unpredictable and the level isn't the same as a swimming pool. So a swimming pool will be a flat surface, you'll have a deep end, you'll have a shallow end. Open water isn't like that, it's unpredictable. You could literally take one wrong step and you're in danger. Undercurrents can carry people away in the blink of an eye. They can be natural or man-made. So man-made ones are like the machinery that's in reservoirs that's cleaning our water, and the natural ones are the ones like caused by the weather. So the waves crashing against the tide, against the piers and stuff. Now, not long after Dylan died, there was another young man with the same name, and he actually was only 2 years old. He was holding his dad's hand at Brighton Pier, and sadly, the waves were so bad they grabbed the little boy out of the dad's hand. Now this little boy didn't survive either. There is plenty of reasons why you can end up in open water, and a lot of them can not be through choice. And I think that's a really, really prominent thing to be aware of after today's event. So underwater debris, anything could be under the water. I'm not trying to teach you things that you already know. Obviously, anything could be under the water, scrap, glass, whatever. And it could cost you your life. And it could be that it's not until you've actually happened upon the said object that it becomes a problem, i.e. the scrap metal going through your leg and being a problem, or your foot or whatever. So like I said, just obviously be mindful that anything could have been dumped in open water. Often slippery embankments can be a problem. People can get in easily, but they can't get out. The embankments have got wet, they've got slippy, whatever. And I didn't really used to 100% not agree with this slide, but I didn't. I'd quickly move on from it until pretty recently. I was at a local canal and I was just having my lunch. And basically, an old elderly gentleman had come along and he had a dog with him. And a swan had tried to attack his dog, basically. So the dog tried to get in the water after the swan. Obviously, the owner of the dog wanted to get the dog out of the water. So he went down the embankment and he was literally holding on to grass while trying to scoop up his dog. This man was about 80-year-old. And I could just foresee something terrible happening. But this slide now makes perfect sense to me and is very much more important now than what it was prior to seeing that event. Sudden temperature changes. So the surface of the water can often be tepid or even warm to the touch, but beneath the surface is a layer called a thermocline, which separates the top layer from the bottom layer. The bottom layer is always going to be freezing. Now, this is very much weather dependent. So if it's been very, very hot for a long time, the thermocline is going to be a bit lower. If it's been very, very cold for a long time, the thermocline is going to be a bit higher. The times of the year where we think the water's at its hottest, it's actually its coldest, and the time when we think it's at its warmest, it's actually it's it's the wrong way around. So basically, in the winter, the water's at its hottest because it's had all summer to heat up, which makes sense when you think about it. And in the summer, it's at its coldest because it's had all winter to cool down again, which makes sense if you think about it. But if you're not told it, sometimes it just doesn't go in, I suppose. And I think that's my problem. My problem is I hold a lot of guilt for not teaching Dylan what I'm teaching you and what I go into school and teach other children. I hold the guilt. It's immeasurable. I can't even describe the feeling. It's out of this world. I just feel like a bit of a failure. But then I try and bring myself back and think, how could I have possibly taught something that I didn't know? And quite honestly, water safety was never taught in my school. The last public safety announcement we ever had was in the 70s, and I was born in 1980. How could I possibly have known this information to pass on to my child to ensure that he lived? Because I'm 100% sure that had I known now what I knew then, had I known then what I know now, I would be living a totally different life. Cramps can often be a problem where open water is concerned, causing the muscles to cramp up and making it hard to swim. First of all, it'll be your fingers and your toes, and then it'll be your arms and your legs. And that's because your body's fighting to keep your organs working, basically. So you'll lose the extremities in your arms and your legs first. You'll lose the power or the ability to be able to swim, no matter how much of a good swimmer you are if cramp sets in. Rip currents, first and foremost, never ever try and swim against a rip current. You are not stronger than that rip current. That rip current will always be stronger than you. If you want to try and escape a rip current, if you've got caught in one, try and get out of the parallel in the middle. If you don't feel that you're strong enough, get on your back, float like a starfish. If you've gone to a lifeguarded beach, put your hand up in the air first, alert the lifeguard that you're in trouble. I'm pretty sure that the lifeguard would be at you and rescued you before you even got to the end of that rip current. However, if you don't feel like that you can call for help or anything, like I said, get on your back, float like a starfish. Once you get to the escape points, compose yourself, get your breathing back controlled, and then swim back to shore. The most important thing is not to panic. Panic can be the cause of so many deaths. Poisonous chemicals can be dumped in open water, so anything could have been dumped in that open water. Bodies of open water have been known to have really high pH levels, some almost as high as bleach and toilet cleaner, meaning that our children and our young people, when they're going out and risking swimming in lakes, quarries, reservoirs, whatever, are swimming in practically toilet cleaner. One of the quarries that we tested was 11.6 and bleach is 12.2. So that just gives you a bit of an idea. You can't see it, it's not visible. Our youth of today and tomorrow can't see that this water is poisonous or could cause them to have skin irritations or whatever. And I do get a lot of the times, why are children or young people not learning? It's on the news all the time, it's in the press all the time. How many 15, 14, 13-year-olds do we actually honestly know that sit around and watch the news? How many 13, 14, 15-year-olds do we know that sit and listen to the radio anymore? They don't. So we need to find a different way to reach these children. Now, I've been trying for 13 years and we're still losing the same amount of people today as what we lost 13 years ago. That's unacceptable. One drowning a year is too many. We lose 600 people in the UK alone every single year. Now, 200 of those is suicide or crime related, but 400 are accidental water related fatalities. And you know what? Every single one is preventable. That's the point here. Every single one is preventable, and you don't even need to put much in to prevent these tragedies. It's not like I'm asking you to put a fortune in or change millions of different things. You know, a half an hour lesson in a school every 6 months, a summer water safety session, a winter water safety session would easily bring down the numbers. Again, I'm going to come back to no lifeguard, no swimming. Dylan Ramsey was born in 1997 and he had an amazing future in front of him. I promised him, and I always knew that he was going to be somebody special. I just didn't know it was going to be like this. But I did know from the day that he was born, the day that I looked in his eyes, I knew that he was going to make a difference in this world, and he is doing. If you want to follow any of my handles, if you look up Doing It for Dylan, I'm on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and other platforms. I put this in. I was finding that I was going to a lot of high schools, and even high school children didn't know what the basic beach flags were in our country. Now, I did used to only show the flags in primary schools because I thought we need to teach the really, really young ones about the flags. When I'd go to high schools and say, right, so what does the red flag mean, which you'd think would be pretty obvious, you would get blank faces and nobody knowing the answer. So obviously I put this in. I'm not going to, again, go into too much detail on here. The red flag means no swimming. It means the lifeguards looked at the water and deemed it not to be fit to swim in. Black and white flag means that there's water sports going on. Again, it's not for swimming in. The only place to swim is between 2 red and yellow flags at a lifeguarded beach, and that's because the lifeguard is central to those 2 flags. This is the kind of kit that our Swift Water Rescue team would wear. So they would wear this along with a woolly bear, which actually isn't in the picture. So the woolly bear is like a woolly onesie from head to toe. Then they'd have the dry suit on, they'd have the buoyancy aid, they'd have the toughened gloves, they'd have the specialist boots, the helmet with a light, a knife, a throw bag and rope. And yet, year after year after year after year, we're pulling bodies out of the water wearing a pair of shorts. That is not any kind of safety whatsoever. That is not keeping you safe. That is not going to protect you. That is not under any way, shape or form going to do you any favours. This is the actual quarry that I was talking about that had a really, really high pH level. So the council basically dyed it black. There was nothing else that they could do. They put signs all around the quarry warning people of how poisonous it was. They put there was fences up, there was signs saying how people could get really, really sick, and you were still seeing families go in there with babies in rubber rings because of how serene it looked. I think the council must have thought there's only one thing we can do here, and that's dye it and make it look unattractive. Now that's just food colouring, so that cost about £2,000 roughly, and it lasts about 4 years. A fence around that place would probably cost about £1 million. I know which one, if I was a landowner, I would prefer, especially considering the black dye is or has been 100% effective and the fences aren't really. Let's be honest, you want to climb a fence, you're going to climb a fence. I have a safe code for the younger ones in particular. Stay away from the edges. So if you're going to go for a walk around by the canal, just take a step back from the side of the water. It's not hard. Teach that to your young ones very, very early on. Safe code, stay away from edges, and who knows where that will go. Who knows who they'll teach that to. The difference between a body of open water and a swimming pool is a safe temperature to swim in. A swimming pool is sanitised, and then a swimming pool is supervised by trained lifeguards. A swimming pool is also designed by safety specialists. Open water is cold enough to kill you. Open water is murky and full of unknown pollutants. Open water can often be unsupervised and provides little to no aid relative to the dangers that it poses. And open water can be full of harmful debris. So why would you choose to swim in open water? Oh, I think I missed one then. Some safety tips. Late at night, you should always avoid bodies of open water, especially if you're under the influence of any mind-altering substances, i.e. alcohol or drugs. You shouldn't visit bodies of open water on your own. It's always safer to travel in numbers. But again, at this point, I want to make it really, really poignant that Dylan was with 2 friends. When I tell you the story about Dylan, there ended up actually being 5 people there, and they still couldn't save Dylan's life. A trip, slip or fall could seriously end it all. Throughout schools, when I'm doing my school presentations, this one might look like a really odd one to put in the middle of it all, but throughout schools, I'm telling Dylan's story throughout the presentation. So by this point, sometimes I can be in floods of tears and very emotional because I've talked a lot about Dylan. So I put this in to try and floor myself a little bit and just say to people, you know what? I got to see Dylan be born, but I also got to see him in a coffin. I got to see him learn at school, but I never got to see him achieve his dreams. I never got to see whether he'd get a wife or a husband. I never got to see whether he'd drive, but I watched him take his first steps. I never actually got to see what my son would achieve in life. So it's not just the mourning of what we lost that we miss. It's also the things that we should be doing with him. His 21st birthday, his prom, you know, all them poignant special dates. My sister having a baby, just everything. Dylan's just not going to be there for it. He's not going to be there when his brothers get married. He's not going to be there if his sister gets married. He's just not here anymore. And not only do I have to deal with my own grief, I've got to deal with my family's grief as well, because at the end of the day, I have got children and they are what have kept me going. There's no two ways about it. Surprising but true, but more people die in water than fires every single year, based on national statistics. More people die in water than in cycling-related incidents, based upon national statistics. And the national curriculum includes fire safety talks and cycling proficiency tests, but fails to cover anything about water safety. Bear in mind, we're an island nation. Do you not think that that is absolutely crazy? Because I do. In case of an emergency, please download to your phone What 3 Words. It's an app that will literally find you to within a 3-metre radius square. Whether, I don't know if any of you have got it or not. This is brilliant for anything, not just water safety. Imagine you had a car crash in a ditch and only thing you've got is your phone. Yeah, you can ring 999, but if you don't know where you are, then they don't know where to find you. If you've got the What 3 Words app, you say the random 3 words that app gives you, and 999 control room actually uses this now, so they will actually know exactly where you are to within a 3-metre radius, which is absolutely astonishing. Precautions to take when you do go open water swimming, despite the risks. Never go alone. Wear bright and easily visible clothing. Go to supervised bodies of open water. Climatise your body to the temperature of the water slowly, and you must be a strong and capable swimmer to even contemplate it. Remember, following these precautions will only lower the risk a very small amount. There are still many dangers lurking beneath the water that can cause injuries or even death. Dylan Ramsey was born on the 17th of October 1997. He was fit, athletic, kind, genuine, friendly and loved. He was clever and he was an excellent swimmer, and he was funny, and he was always there for anyone. Dylan died on the 3rd of July swimming in open water. As you can see, Dylan wasn't a stranger to open water. Just a few weeks prior to him dying, he was actually at Lake Windermere doing competitions at school. Now, I don't hold anybody responsible for this, but I do think that, as you can see, Dylan was fully clothed in the right clothing at that event to do that, partake in that open water event. I just wonder what was said to Dylan going forward. Like, you need to wear this kind of equipment. You need to wear this kind of stuff if you ever want to go out and do it in the future. Because it was only a couple of weeks after that trip that Dylan obviously had the bravado and felt that he was able to go swimming in open water and didn't see anything wrong with that. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Dylan and a little bit about the person that he was. He was amazing. He was born £7 4.5 ounces, a little bundle of joy, perfect. He was a sponge when it come to learning. He loved to soak up information. He loved to be educated. He was one of the most nicest, genuine people that you could ever meet. And you could ask anybody that ever met him and they would all say the exact same thing. Dylan shouldn't have went that day. Not that anybody should have went, but Dylan shouldn't have lost his life. Like I said, he was only in the water for 20 minutes in total. He was only underwater for 3 minutes maximum. When Dylan went underwater, just before he went underwater, he shouted for help 3 times. Upon shouting for help for 3 times, there was 3 Polish men at the top of the quarry. Unfortunately, because of the language barrier, they thought he was saying hello, so they waved at him. Those vital seconds potentially could have saved Dylan's life, but nobody knows. And again, I don't hold anybody responsible. Dylan was pulled to one of the islands and he was given CPR immediately by this Polish man, and then later by a police officer. And I'm not going to lie, that was all they did for him. 13-year-old, young, fit, healthy young man that had been underwater for 3 minutes in total. They gave him half an hour of CPR. That's it. No adrenaline, no nothing. That's it. That's it. Now I know that was wrong, because I know that within weeks that the law changed and that you're not allowed to any longer pronounce somebody dead cold at the side of the scene. So Dylan should have potentially, probably, supposed to have been took to hospital and maybe heated up and then maybe worked on at hospital. We can't go back, and we can't change what didn't happen or what did happen. And I'd rather focus my attention on making a positive change rather than fight for negativity, because no matter what, Dylan isn't coming home. I've spoken to roughly 250,000 people single-handedly on my own. I've travelled the country. I will speak to anybody, like I've already said at the beginning. Anyone that will listen to me, I will speak to them. The day that it actually happened, I was at a football match and I received a phone call saying you need to get to the quarry and you need to get there quickly, because Dylan's been involved in an accident. And I'll be honest, at that point, I genuinely thought Dylan had fallen from the top of the quarry. It never once crossed my mind that it was anything to do with the water. And it was only upon arrival, and my husband was stood there and he screamed to me that Dylan was dead. I remember passing out, I remember collapsing. I was only out of it for a few minutes, and when I come back round, I literally begged to be in the ambulance with my son to go to hospital. But unfortunately, I was told I wasn't allowed because Dylan looked a mess. I had to go home and wait for the police to come and basically pick me up to go and identify my son's body. And I'm not going to sit here and try and tell you what that was like to walk into a mortuary to my lifeless son. I am going to say that I gave him a hug and I promised him that I would ensure that his death was not in vain. And that is exactly why I am stood here today. Sorry. So the stats, I've already told you about the stats. Sorry. There's a huge need for local targeted approaches, and I truly believe that Lancashire can lead the way. I truly, truly believe that. You have got one of the most passionate people in water safety in this county right now, and I will help any one of you do anything to do with water safety. Anything that would reduce a mother from feeling my pain. Anything to reduce a child from feeling my children's pain. Thank you. Education is prevention, and it's the one place where we see a lot of children. All right, there are some children homeschooled, but it's the place where we're going to meet and hit and actually capture the most amount of children in one place. And we can add to this by using social media, the news. We can have awareness campaigns and days. We can have multi-agency events. We can have family events. But signage is also really, really important. We need to have signage in public places, warning of dangers, and who to contact if they see somebody in trouble, what to do if they find themselves in trouble. And again, multi-agency events could help with this. We need to ensure that water safety is taught to all children in all schools age appropriately. Like I've already said, half an hour twice a year, surely we can fit that in to save lives. Surely we can squeeze that in. Councils need to engage with landowners and ensure that landowners take responsibility for their own land, so they have adequate signs up, they have adequate life-saving equipment in place. Some places might need fencing off, some places might need lighting. Councillors can encourage that water safety is brought to the forefront of education. My son died, so others don't have to. Throughout my campaigning, I've won many awards. I've won the Archangel Award from ROSPA. I received British Empire Medal from the late Queen. I've won BBC Awards, like Make a Difference. I've won local radio awards, South Ribble Awards, STA Roll of Honours, Rock FM Time to Shine, Manchester Fire and Rescue Volunteer of the Year, Petition of the Year. I met Prince William. I've met lots and lots and lots of famous, amazing people. I would trade every one of them awards and meeting every single one of those people just to go back to having my life back, having my son back, and just being totally oblivious to all this. Unfortunately, I can't do that. I've done podcasts and spoken to press. I've taught over 250,000 people single-handedly. Imagine what we could do together, like I've already said. If not now, then when? If not us, then who? I need your help to reduce these needless water-related fatalities. I can't do it alone. So what can we do going forward? In Lancashire, we could set up a Lancashire Water Safety Action Group. We could have discussions, be them quarterly, annually, 6 monthly, whatever. We could locate high-risk places. We could put fencing where appropriate, adequate lighting. We could add water safety signage, explaining the risk of the dangers. Water safety equipment could be put in place. Where water-related suicides are a problem, signs of hope and signposts of where to get help could also be put in place. Location number boards could also be put in place to be able to locate the person committing suicide, giving them a better chance of survival. We need to make sure that landowners are responsible. I don't want to go into it too much, but the landowner of the quarry where Dylan died, when it come to the inquest, literally got told off the coroner he could plead Rule 23 to every single question, which meant he didn't have to answer a single question that the family had because he was the director of a company. How is that fair? How is that okay? I wanted to ask him questions such as, did you know you should have had signs in place? Did you know you should have had a fence around that quarry? Did you know that you could have done more to educate or stop people from getting into your quarry that you've made thousands and thousands of pounds from? He didn't answer a single question. He didn't have to. By law, he didn't have to. That should change. I wasn't trying to make him be responsible in any way, shape or form. I just wanted questions answering. The location number boards, and also the specialist identifiable rope out there that can be installed to life buoys, making it easily identifiable. If anybody was to steal these ropes, I'm sure we all know that life buoys get vandalised all the time. We see them up trees, we see the orange rope here, there and everywhere, but actually you can buy that rope as a member of public. You could go into any rope manufacturer, whatever, and just say you want an orange rope. This rope that they've trialled in Scotland is 3 colours, I believe, and it's only used on water safety equipment and can only be purchased by councils. So if you was, for instance, to see this rope in somebody's garden or in a child or teenager's hand, you would know that it had been stolen from a piece of water safety equipment. So it just makes it a little bit more identifiable. But on top of that, regardless of that anyway, the location numbers boards have been trialled in Liverpool along Albert Dock, 1 to 50. Basically, it's just a number 1, literally 250. They're every 50 metres apart, and they're in places where there's high risk of suicide. Now, before, the police were taking 23 minutes to locate where a person had jumped into the water, for instance. Now, because of the location boards, that call-out time's been cut to 9 minutes. That definitely changes the things from the risk of a recovery to a rescue. I'm sure you'd all agree that potentially being in the water for 9 minutes is going to be a lot less harmful than being in the water for 23 minutes. And also, just to put a bit of backup on the trial on the rope, there's been a trial in Glasgow on the rope that's been going about 9 years now, I believe, and it's actually reduced vandalism by 80%, which is huge. It speaks for itself. Drowning is indiscriminate. And it doesn't matter what colour you are, it doesn't matter what age you are, it doesn't matter what creed you are, it doesn't matter what religion you are, but we can all chip away at this if we work hard, and we can all do our own little thing in our own little way, or we can all work together and we can make big changes, and Lancashire can be the start of those big changes. I do go around the country and do talks like this with other councils in other areas, and we are already making a start in other areas. But Lancashire, we can do better. We can do so much better. I've sat here for 13 years and hardly even been approached by people locally. I get approached by people much further afield rather than locally. And I don't know whether it's because it's a bit intimidating because it happened locally or what, but my service is free of charge. There is nothing stopping you from having me in your local schools. There is nothing stopping you from having your local high school ring me up and saying, are you available on X day, Y, Z day or Z day? And there's nothing stopping us as adults, counsellors, going into schools and actually saying, we want this implementing in school, A, B, C, D, whatever. You know, it's doable. We must teach the youth to respect the water because it doesn't respect us. And if there's anything that the councillors in the room would like to be a part of, if there's any councillors in the room that would like to be a part of a water safety action group, then I think that would be really, really good going forward. We don't have to meet weekly, monthly, we can meet annually, like I said, 6 monthly, whatever, just to see what we're actually doing in our own areas. Other than this, thank you for your time, and I am willing to take any questions, be it about water safety, be it about Dylan, be it about what you could do yourself in your own area. If you have any problems, we have got so many in Chorley. So it depends where you are to what problems you have. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. And then once we've finished with questions, I am just on this actual slide. As you can see, there's a music thing in the top. I will just hold Dylan's picture up and we'll play the song that one of Dylan's friends wrote for him, and just think about Dylan for 2 minutes. So if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you, Becky.
Losing Dylan was devastating for us all. We were lucky to know it. I'm doing this track on behalf of everyone who knew him.
Sorry.
Did you want to?
No, go on, you're all right. Yeah.
No, I'd just like to thank you for that very moving presentation, and we'll listen to this before we open up the debate, the questions, if you like. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Thank you. No, so I'm just going to literally play Dylan's song, and this, I think if you listen to the words, it tells you a lot about the kind of person that Dylan was, a lot about, well, it tells you a little bit about his upbringing. It says he had a good mum and dad. And yeah, it just gives us all time to reflect on not just Dylan, but all the lives that have been lost in open water, because there has been many.
Losing Dylan was devastating for us all. We were lucky to know him. I'm doing this track on behalf of everyone who knew him. He was such an amazing and talented person, and he left everlasting memories on everyone he met. And he brought out the best in people and made them smile. This is for you, bud. Hope this will make you proud and do you justice. Doing this for Dylan. It's hard to keep strong when every day we're reminded that you're gone, but time can take away the memories they live on. You was a friend to everyone, and our memories keep your soul alive and give us the will to carry on. Wish I could bring you back, make you reappear. As I reminisce, my eyes filled with tears. It ain't the same without you here, and this pain is like a twister. Everybody's gonna miss you. My heart goes out to your family, your brothers and your sisters. Your past, our hearts drop to the floor. Nothing feels the same anymore. Hearts and minds forever sore. You're the missing part from our heart's core, and we will always keep your name alive till the end of time, forever in our minds. We come together with these lines, but it's hard to face it, hard to take it. Knowing that you're gone, we can't embrace it. We all hate it, but we can make it, cause we know you're looking down, even though you're not around. Always see you smile, never frown. And for your age, you were tense, you were strong in every sense. It breaks our hearts Thinking of you in past tense, stuck in our minds like cement. Remembering the time that we spent, leaving memories everywhere you went. And when times got hard, you're the one I prayed to. That cheeky grin and laugh is what made you. Proud of how your mum and dad raised you. I miss those funny days and your stubborn ways. You brought the light to the darkest days, helping people change, never failing to amaze. 100% is all you ever gave. Unique, you was rare. You had the gift and flair, always loved to occur. You went so young, it wasn't fair. Looking back at the times we shared, you was always there, always had the time to spare, even if we was unaware. Let me give it back to you, boy. Just remember, we're always gonna do it for you, though.
Thank you. And please, if you have any questions that you don't want to ask in front of everyone, ask me via doing it for Dylan on Facebook. That's absolutely fine. If anybody's watching via any way, shape or form, again, same goes. And thank you for having me.
Right. Thank you, Becky, again. I now invite members to make any comments, including any recommendations that the committee may wish to take forward. Any questions, any comments?
Thank you. I just want to first to say thank you to you. If I can get through this, because that was really hard to listen to, but really, really important. I'm 55, you've taught me quite a lot today, so that I didn't know about and haven't taught my children either. So I think what you're doing is fantastic. So I just want to say that. Okay, give me a minute. In terms of the Water Safety Action Group, I think that's a really great idea and something that actually, given that this did happen tragically locally as well, that we absolutely need to be part of that, and I'd be happy to get involved in that as well. But yeah, thank you very much.
Dylan isn't the only one in the local area. I think we've had probably around about 4 or 5 locally. So it is a massive problem. That's just very, very locally, like within a 5-mile radius. If I was to go a bit further afield, we're probably talking 10s or 20s. But thank you very much for your kind words.
Councillor Beach.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Michelle said. Thank you for allowing us the privilege of sharing your story. It takes a lot to stand up and speak like you've done from the heart. So I'd like to thank you for sharing that, and I'd like to be part. I swam competitively for my school and county for 16 years, and we were always taught, first and foremost, safe water. So thank you for that. I very much would like to be a part of that. And Michelle's right. We've got a quarry here in Lancashire, one of a few I would imagine. We've also got Rivington and other reservoirs. So yes, I would more than happily take part in that. So thank you.
Any other comments, Sarah? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. As with Michelle and Michelle as well, I'd like to be part of the group as well. I'm also keen as well that we do get it into schools because it is so important. I was never taught anything about water safety at school, and I think we need to get it out there and get it to primary schools, high schools, because it's so important, this issue.
No, we can.
Kim? Yeah.
Is there I mean, I know, I think we discussed this slightly. I know when you presented at the county council a bit ago as well. Is there anything the council can do to help you get a constitution and stuff, you know, for the campaign, and then you can apply for grants and things like that, and then you can roll it out sort of even wider?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm hoping for. I mean, even whether anybody helps me or whether they help their community, it doesn't matter as long as it's helping reduce water-related fatalities. But yeah, absolutely. If somebody in the council could help with the constitution, that would be great. Unfortunately, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because somebody passed away. but that's what's held things up a little bit for me at the moment. It's not held up the Doing It for Dylan campaign. I'm still doing exactly what I'm doing. On Friday, I'm going up to Scotland because we have actually got, and you might not have ever even heard of this voluntary organisation, because that's all they are, but they're called Beneath the Surface, and basically they go out and they look for lost loved ones when hope is lost, when the police have given up, when the fire service have given up, when it's been weeks, months, whatever. And quite often these people find people or dogs, or it depends what a family's asked for to be found. Now this weekend we are actually going up to Scotland, to Alloa, I hope I've said that right, to be given a piece of equipment that's called an Aqua Eye, which is an underwater camera, and it will allow these men and women, I'm pretty sure they're all men, but I better cover my back, it will allow these men and women to be able to search easier and quicker for people in the water. The group or the company that's made the Aqua Eye have come from Canada, and they're going to come and actually teach us how to use it over Saturday and Sunday, and we're the first ambassadors. Obviously Beneath the Surface is the ambassadors, but they've asked me to partner up with them and go up and obviously be the reasoning behind why this equipment is so important. So I've got my hand in every pie possible.
And you'll give Kim.
I suppose it kind of ties into the item further down the agenda, but does water safety, I don't know, it might be better wait till, I'm just going to say, where does water safety feature with the community safety partnership, and whether or not there's anything that it could be looked at, but I'll save that question till after.
No. I don't think that the police or the fire service do enough. They do what they can, but they're not funded to do it. So I think that's a massive hurdle for them. But the multi-agency events are always very fun for the people getting involved in them, and they're also very informative for anybody that's attending them. So going forward, feel free to have multi-service events.
I know, Becky, that my team have worked with you a little bit at the quarry. We had the Crime Watch that came down, if you remember, to talk about it. I also cover West Lancashire, where I've got Appley Bridge Quarry as well. So it is something which we take really seriously. But you're right, we do as much as we can with what we've got. But we do set up the water safety advisory groups. We have one at West Lancs, and I think you're right. Let's get one here as well, because there's an awful lot around here as well, isn't there?
There's a recommendation in itself.
Deirdre.
Are the quarries in Wicklow any safer now than they were when Dylan died?
Absolutely not. So the quarry owner pretty much made a bit of a mockery, really. When the coroner said he had to put up signs, he was ordered to put up signs. He put up paper laminates that was never going to last 5 minutes. The signs that he did eventually put up were like on the back of old signs, if that makes sense. They didn't even go out and buy new signs, a lot of which have already been vandalised, gone. They've never been replaced. The fence is still very easy to get in. The quarry's still very accessible. There's still people going there. I still get complaints. And what I said about the community safety, that wasn't like having a negative impact. You do all you can. I have worked at Appley Bridge, at Appley Quarry, where they've had dispersal orders in to stop children and young people from actually attending. But how much money is that costing? How much money is it costing? But we don't have a pot for prevention, which makes no sense.
Any more questions? No comments? Thank you, Becky, for this excellent information. Other recommendations arising from the discussion will be taken forward to the relevant departments. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you'd like, you can stay to listen.
I'm going to get off. As much as I like your pretty faces, I might get on for Emmerdale. I won't do any spoilers, don't worry.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the tissue.
Right. Item 8, the Community Safety Partnership, Crime and Disorder. Agenda supplement pages 3 to 68. The Executive Member for Early Intervention, Councillor Bev Murray, is in attendance to present this report. Jennifer Mullin, Director of Communities, is here to assist, together with Laura Jean Taylor, Head of Public Protection, and Chief Inspector Chris Abbott from Lancashire Constabulary. Thank you.
I'm going to present the paper today, if that's okay with you. Okay, I won't go into a huge amount of detail. The paper's quite long, so hopefully you've all read it. There's quite a lot of detail in there. I'll just go through the highlights, really. So we are a community safety partnership. We're in partnership with ourselves and South Ribble Council, with the police, fire and rescue, the probation service, and the integrated care board. We wouldn't be able to do anything that we do as a partnership without our other partners, which we work with, like CAB, Drugs and Alcohol Services, Voluntary Faith Sector. So we all work together on our community safety plan. So the report talks about the different governance arrangements that we've got. It talks about the different groups that we're on, the integrated offender management, prevent, lots of different groups and that we take part in. So as you can see, we work well with the Police and Crime Commissioner, and there's been some really fantastic operations that we've been part of, Operation Warrior being one of them, but the big one that has made such a big improvement in the Chorley Town Centre is Operation Centurion. So our community safety team have been working with the police, and as you can see, there's been some amazing enforcement actions taking place with community protection warnings, notices, fixed penalties. We've even had a closure order, which is very unique to Lancashire, and one of the things that has been very successful. So you can see the number of antisocial behaviour reports has gone down significantly since Operation Centurion has started. We've also been working on various education campaigns, Impact and Cells being one of them, which has been fantastic, working with young people, with people with lived experience, really trying to make a difference in our schools. I mentioned Operation Sunshine a couple of weeks ago in Scrutiny. This is an operation that we've been working with to look at reducing antisocial behaviour, but via diversion activities with young people, looking at providing football sessions, activity sessions, and the charts there show the impact. So there hasn't been that peak in half term that we've normally seen, that young people have been engaging, and the right young people. So the ones that wouldn't normally engage with other services have been engaging, and our teams have been amazing, dragging young people in from the streets to take part in the operation. So you can see there's Operation Cauldron, Operation Sunshine. So there's been lots of activity that's happened over the last year. There's details there about domestic abuse service that have been commissioned across Lancashire and also within Chorley. You can see that we also fund some domestic abuse services, some IDVAs that work in the court and support people through court cases. We also have a prevention of domestic abuse coordinator that works in the council, that's been part of the White Ribbon campaign. We fund lots of community groups within Chorley to support women who are going through domestic abuse. You can see the various campaigns we've been involved in, White Ribbon, the Yes Matters campaign, and all the training that's been put on for our staff and our partners. We also have a role in domestic homicide reviews. We help chair and support that to review every single domestic homicide that's happened in Chorley to see where we could, that's involved domestic violence, to see where lessons could be learnt. So at the moment we've got 2 on the go. So the team are working particularly hard through that. You can see that the funding for domestic homicide reviews has been changed, and our councils are sharing the cost rather than the Police and Crime Commissioner. We are part of lots of different groups, as I mentioned. So we've got Pivot, we've got MARAC, we've got the Lancashire Violence Reduction Network. And again, some of those to discuss individuals and what we can do to support individuals, but also look at wider support, training for our officers, training for communities. And we look at domestic violence cases and what we can do to support. Hopefully, a lot of this is led out of prevention. So what we can do to support people not coming into crime, what we can do to support people who become victims of crime. So there's the officers work quite closely with various partners to do that. And then the last part of the report is crime figures. So you can see the figures that have come out of Lancashire Constabulary, mainly covering last year. So you can see that there has been a decrease in crime in Chorley by a small amount. You can see the different wards that have crime. You can see the tables of the different types of crime that have increased and decreased. You can also see antisocial behaviour. There has been an increase in antisocial behaviour, as you can see. But the point I wanted to make really, and the point that's in the report, is a huge amount of that is not youth related. I know people assume antisocial behaviour is youth related and it's town centre and people causing problems in the town centre. It really isn't. It is widespread and it is not always used. As you can see, the numbers of youth related incidents in comparison to the number of all ASB is small. And you can see the data that with regard to domestic abuse crime, burglaries, violence against the person, knife crime. So hopefully sorry, it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour through the report, but I'm happy to answer questions with Laura Jean and the Chief Inspector over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any questions? Any comments? Christine?
Yeah, I noticed through the reports that there were the issues were kind of like drilled down to the specific ward within the borough of where the worst cases are. And so what do you do with that then? How does that change the policy, or does it influence policy? I suppose you will be able to drill down into specific areas where it's happening, I assume, probably estates or something. So can you just explain what you do with the information?
Yeah, so if I may, I'll explain our current governance structure, which we've now got in place. I'll call it South BCU, so this is one part of South Division. So we have a monthly tactical tasking meeting, and we now have a tactical tasking analyst who works within the division. So that analyst will drill down on all the offence types like we've discussed there, provide heat maps, drill down for every ward, every district, give us numbers on a 28-day rolling basis, and then we're able to drill down and look exactly what offences are happening where. That then will influence my local tasking meetings, which the partners come to, and we look at where we need to put our resources and when to deal with those issues. So it's very reactive, but on the back of that, there also is the prevention measures as well. So we're able to look at criminal behaviours, where are offences likely to happen based on current patterns and things. So I think we've become a little bit more scientific with it now, with all the data that we're able to get, and with the help that we get from CSP across the whole. Everyone comes together to respond to it. But what we are seeing, because of operations like Centurion and the way we're able to use our data, we're seeing steady reductions. And that isn't just here. The same processes are in place all across Lancashire at the minute. And what we are seeing are fewer and fewer victims of crime. And that is across the board. So I think that just shows that it is working. We've still got work to do, but we are absolutely going in the right direction. So it is very localised at the minute. The response we get is a true response to issues that are happening, with that preventative wraparound as well to stop it happening again.
Councillor McGovern. Do you have a question?
Hello. Did you say, sorry, did you say I can speak now?
Yes.
Good. I think that this sounds like a fantastic partnership, and there's lots of data. Because this is the Scrutiny Committee, I do feel that I want to bring up a couple of issues. And I hope that bringing them up is a useful thing to do. The first issue for me, my background is research, really. And when I look at the main report, some of the language is very bureaucratic and rather impenetrable. It makes it very difficult to actually pick it apart. And I always believe that expressing things simply is the way to make them clear. So I want to give you an example, and I hope you don't think I'm picky to say this. I will read out what is in the report, and I'll give you my alternative. This is section 15 in the main report. It says, quote, to support desistance, rehabilitative pathways are put in place to address the criminogenic need of the individual, which is speculative, I have to say, in order to replace their likelihood of reoffending. Now, what I would say is, I'm not sure who would understand that. I would suggest, I'm just saying as a general thing, simple language is the best way to make something accessible. And my alternative to that would be, we are offering rehabilitation services to encourage individuals not to reoffend. There may be a better way of phrasing it, but I'm just saying, be simple. And one of the things that brought this up for me, I was reading yesterday Private Eye, and if you happen to read Private Eye, go to page 13. It's called Call to Order, and that is about the liaison committee in Parliament, and it's about a subcommittee which is on scrutiny, and it's basically a piss take of the language they use. So I'm just saying, be clear. The second issue, I'll be very quick if I can. I feel there's a lack of essential data to make proper comparisons. So I'll give you two examples, but I would say that in your main report and in appendices A and C, you'll find this happening again and again in different ways. I'll give you two examples, and you may from the main report. So on section 21 for Operation Centurion, you say that an additional 5,800 policing hours have been provided. Well, that sounds great. But how many hours were there originally? So what I want to know, as someone who does research, is what percentage increase is there? That's simply adding a number. It's a very simple thing. So that's why I'm pointing it out, because that's the kind of thing that can be easily done and makes it easier. Another example, the Domestic Abuse Service Commission, section 43. You give raw figures for each district in Lancashire. These would work better if they were accompanied by a percentage of relevant population. So, for example, when you look at the raw data, Blackburn has the highest raw number of people who presumably have been arrested for domestic abuse, 245 in September 23. But you see, it may not be the highest because we don't know what it is as a percentage of the population. So a raw number of the population, relevant population in Blackburn and Darwin. So it might not be the highest because it might have a particularly high population. So I bring up those things that I hope will be useful. If I could just make a basic point about the data. At present, you're describing what you do, and it's fantastic. I'm not trying to be critical, but you're presenting, because it's a description, there's no context. Now, if you just add things that give you comparative data, you will have an explanatory tool, and then you will really be able to see how much of a difference you make. You won't just be saying, we're good, we're making an improvement, which is a description. You'll be saying, look, here is the proof. So those were the two issues I wanted to bring up. And I'm bringing them up just because this is the Scrutiny Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGovern. Would you like to give a response to those queries?
I'm happy to take those on board, and we'll have a look at the report for future.
Any more questions?
I just wondered, I was looking on I think it's page 53, the covering page for Chorley and South Ribble Community Safety Partnership Plan 2022 to 2025. I just wondered, the County Council's logo doesn't seem to be on it, and then I think on page 55 it says that the success of the partnership is dependent on the collaborative working with the County Council and the valuable contributions of other partner agencies. And I know just through a few cases dealt with via Jennifer's team over the last year or so, I know that there seems to be a bit of a trend where the road safety partnership and people from the county council on. I think some of the staff are saying that people from the county council don't attend the community safety partnership meetings, and the road safety partnership is hard to engage with. And I know it says further down, the work of the CSP is underpinned by the strategies and action plans listed below, one of which is road safety. I just wondered, are they engaging, do they attend the meetings in Chorley and South Ribble, and are they engaging in the issues? It'd be great, thank you.
I think I might be able to answer a bit of that, Kim, try and make a bit of sense of it. So, yeah, the logo is missing from the front because this is our local plan as such. So, there's the strategic overarching Lancashire partnership, community safety partnership, and then we have the sub partnerships which sit under that based on local district areas. So I would say that's why we're probably missing from the front. But I do agree with the context of referring to them as a valuable partner and the need to link in, such as because they may chair or be responsible for other partnerships, such as road safety, where they will be the chair. There's the water safety, where Lancashire Fire and Rescue are the chair, and they are collectively, we do agree, our priorities, which our priorities may not necessarily be led by one of those responsible authorities, such as the Road Safety Partnership is chaired and led by Lancashire County Council. We've agreed that it's a priority for Chorley based on the data that we have. So they are, in that case, they become a valuable partner rather than the owner of the document, if you're with me, or the owner of the partnership plan. So I suppose it's just their role alters depending on what it is that we're dealing with. I hope that makes sense. And their attendance is varied in terms of the officer working group. Yes, I think prior to COVID it was very good, but has since COVID not been as effective or not as consistent, and we will keep pushing to drive that.
Yeah, okay.
Just want to give an example of road safety issue that we had, excuse me, in Eccleston, which wasn't resolved really to my satisfaction. We have a road in Eccleston called Back Lane, and it runs between Charnock Richard and the village of Eccleston, joins Parr Lane. and it's been made a preferred cycle route. It's a single track lane for the most part of it. It's got joggers, it's got cyclists, it's got walkers, it's got cars. It's signed to say it's a single track. I asked Alan Whittaker, Councillor Whittaker, who works in the borough with us, if he would raise it with the county council as to whether or not we could have an additional sign just to say, please watch out along this stretch of road, you know, something that would suffice, watch out for pedestrians, cyclists, etc., etc. And we were refused that sign because they said, people know what the highway code is, and so they don't need signs. And anyway, that's not a sign that we have in our stock that is designed to go up on the roads. Now, on that road, we've got watch out for hedgehog signs and things like that, but we can't have a sign for watching out for people, joggers, cyclists, because you can't see around the bend, it's very twisty. And even when you can't overtake cyclists, it's not wide enough. But you've got cyclists coming towards you as well, and it's very dicey in places, and I'm surprised that there hasn't been an accident, and the road surface is really poor. So all I'm saying is, whoever's on these committees, can they please do something about signage?
Yes.
Christine, I'll pick that. I've just put that as a note to pick it up outside of the meeting, and we'll see if we can help. I don't want to give any false promises, but we'll try and see how where the problems are, and if we can push that forward. Getting some sense.
Any more questions? Yes, Kim. Sorry, no, Sam.
I just wanted to check. So the numbers within the crime data, they're just reported crimes. They're not convictions.
That's right. Those are the number of reports.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for things like domestic abuse and sexual offences, we know there's an underreporting on those because the very, very underreported crimes, as well as being extremely under-convicted crimes as well. So is the follow-up data we can actually get about convictions in the area as well, based on these reported crimes? I know obviously the courts are massively backlogged as well, so, but I think it would just be interesting to have follow-up data for convictions relating to these.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our focuses is achieving positive outcomes against any reports. The more positive outcomes we've got, we're dealing with offenders, we'll see fewer victims, and then we build up trust and confidence, don't we? So we start to see an increase in reports. That's exactly what happened with Ops Ensuring. If I just refer to that, Jennifer mentioned an increase in antisocial behaviour. What we found is more people were reporting it to us because they knew we'd do something about it, because we were getting those positive outcomes. So yeah, we have got that data, and then we can provide that. Yeah.
Any others? No? Yes, Kim.
It's positive. I was just going to say, make a massive. What's it called? I think the partnership working between the police, particularly we've got new police CBM Connor Cross, and he's doing an incredible job, and with James and the council and with United Utilities, and I think Rivington and Angles Arc has never had as much attention in its certainly the last 10-15 years since you know. So he's doing a brilliant job. I think the only thing I would say, perhaps from a councillor perspective, I get the impression that there's been a few changes in the neighbourhood policing teams over the last few months, and I think sometimes we kind of have to pick it up sort of second hand, finding out that we've got no PCSO covering our area and stuff like that. It would be useful if perhaps through Laura or Jennifer, you know, like when those areas are changed, that could then be conveyed out, because I know there's been one or two bits where, I mean, we have a fantastic PCSO called Fern, but I believe she's now gone to the town centre, and she built up some incredible relationships with the youth club that she set up, but nobody knows that she's now not covering that area. I only picked that up second hand, so just communication, I think, really would be, and I think that's applicable across the board, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank you. No more. Yeah, I've just got one question. Looking at page 17, the crime statistics going from January 22, is it, to December 23, seems a big drop round about November, December, January in 22, which hasn't been reciprocated in 23. Is there any reason why you've got that dip?
Jog my memory, but when did COVID finish? Are we still in the COVID sort of?
Is that the COVID?
Well, we came out of COVID, didn't we? And what we found is a significant underreporting and reduction in offences still. And what we think had happened, and there's still a lot of research going on with this, a lot had changed. So the nighttime economy, for instance, has taken an awful long time to pick up again since all the lockdowns. People just weren't going out, and we've seen that. I mean, I don't know if you've seen yourselves, you go out, it's a lot quieter now on a Friday and Saturday night than it ever was, but it is starting to pick up. That's just one example of some of the fallout that we had. We then started to see more police officers coming in. We had the uplifts. So there was, I think you add it all together, it explained a drop. And then we started to come back to business as usual, if I say, where we started to see certain spikes in certain areas. But it is an interesting thing to note. So yeah, COVID had finished, certainly something there that we, as a fallout of that. And it's interesting, some of the research that's coming out now. You know, an example being some of the students perhaps who for 2 years hadn't really been out, and then they were going away to university without maybe some of the experience and social skills that they could have had. There's an awful lot behind it.
Okay, thank you. No more questions, right. We're now at the end of the discussion. Please can we note the report? And the decision is, the recommendation is that the report be noted. We now go on to item 9, the second monitoring report, overview of scrutiny, select move. Pages 49 to 68 of the main agenda. The executive member for Homes and Houses, Councillor Terry Howarth, is in attendance to present this report, and he is supported by Jennifer Mullin, Director of Communities. I now invite members, oh, sorry, go on. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I attended the first monitoring report on 5th of October last year. I commented briefly on the report and proceeded to comment on the pathway ahead. In the paper that you've got, the 18 recommendations are listed as they were at the first monitoring report. And then you have a survey which was done after the monitoring report towards the end of the year. What I pointed out or indicated was the need for the reports to be signed off by the executive members at the various councils. Also, that the select move teams would then be able to proceed to implementation, including IT development from IT service providers and consultants. Executive member for Chorley, I signed off the policy early in November. I had indicated in October I was hopeful that the report would be implemented by February. This did not take place and is unlikely to take place for the next month or so. There are a number of reasons why this did not take place. Several months actually elapsed before all parties had signed off the policy. I was still asking about it about certain local authorities. I think Kim will bear this out come January. Recently, our IT consultants have advised that security bugs have been found in several other public authority computer systems, and they've been called away. They are specialists in the area and are working for a number of other local authorities, public bodies. The security bug is linked to TLS 1.2, which is a protocol which is used by many local authorities to actually protect data, private data, public data becoming mixed up and getting out to places it shouldn't be. The 3 local authorities are pressed the agency to actually get on with the development work, none more so than Chorley. We're quite anxious to get this done as quickly as possible because in many ways we're quite proud of this report. It came from Chorley, accepted by the partners, and we all regarded it as something that was well worthwhile. The IT, once it starts, is going to take 3 months to sort out, which is longer, or probably the typical time it will take. Following that, training will take place. And this will actually take us to the new council year. So it's going to be within the new council year when your report will be fully implemented. I think I've said enough there. If you wish, ask any questions. I'll be very happy to.
Right, I now invite members to make any comments on the recommendation of the task group and the contents of the report. No comments. We are now at the end of the discussion of this item. Please can we agree that the report be noted? Thank you. Item 10, Overview and Scrutiny Work Programme, main agenda, pages 69 to 70. Please see the work programme is attached for information. Item 11, Overview and Scrutiny Task Group and Finish Groups. Overview and Scrutiny Task Groups, Suicide Prevention and Bereavement. An update to be given on the current position of this task group. Who's leading that one?
I was just going to make a comment,
okay,
Chair, just to update members. There's been a call out for members of the task group. So far, only 3 members have expressed interest, so I just thought maybe the members who were in attendance tonight might like to comment to the committee on that. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Beach.
Yeah, I just had a conversation this evening with colleagues in the members' room, and we feel that we should extend the invitation to join it and ask people to come along to the scoping exercise of the task group, just to get a bit more information about what the task group will aim to achieve and look at it, just with a view to try and generate some more interest, really. That was just all I've got to say.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Can we note that, please?
Obviously, suicide prevention is actually one of the council's corporate priorities during this municipal year as well. And I think that probably does need to be stressed to members that it is actually a priority of the council, and bereavement, supporting the bereaved is part of prevention. And as the conversation I had with Councillor Beach earlier, it is a difficult subject which probably does put people off signing up to. And that's why I think it's quite useful to invite anyone along to the scoping meeting with the view they don't have to commit to going on the task group, so they can actually come, find out more, realise that it's trying to take a positive action rather than dwelling on the negative. And I think that might encourage more people to actually join the task group.
Yeah, Christine, yes.
I'd also like to add that Chorley has got a higher rate than other surrounding areas for suicide. And I think it's our duty to make sure that we look into that and try to make it a better place and find out why the rate is higher than others and what we can do about it.
Can we send an email out to all councillors, encouraging them to join the scoping to try and get the volunteers? Thank you. Any more? No. I confirm there is no urgent business. I now declare the meeting closed. Thank you for your